The latest in the Idaho murder case is former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan. Good morning, Stuart. Thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good morning.
So the idea that he is a criminal justice student, that he studies this sort of thing, I just find that fascinating considering what he is accused of. How do you think that plays in, what his background is, what the crime is, his capture, all of it?
I think at the end of the day, I think the physical evidence that was left behind, given the brutality of what he did or what he alleged to have done, I think the physical evidence doesn't lie. I think notwithstanding his background, it's going to actually work against him at the end. It's going to garner zero sympathy and public support for him. And I think at the end of the day, the physical evidence will incriminate him. And ultimately, I think tomorrow will be a very probative day to see the great work that local, state, and federal law enforcement did from November 13th on upward to his arrest with respect to the collection of physical evidence and being able to zero in and pinpoint that he is, in fact, the responsible person for committing these 4 homicides.
Well, let's talk about some of that physical evidence, specifically that white Hyundai Elantra. This investigation was kept so tight to the vest, and we got nearly no information, and it made people think they don't know what they're doing, they don't even have a suspect, they should give this over to the FBI. Given what little information they did give out, it seems like that white Hyundai Elantra was extremely significant. At least that's my take on it. What do you think?
That is correct. When I was assigned to the Special Operations Division in New York, one of the things that I was responsible for as a team leader was to, in fact, track and follow these type of individuals. The reason why the information was kept so close to the vest is once the DNA profile was isolated, where they had an individual and through other techniques to be able to zero in and pinpoint someone who was living in proximity to where the homicides occurred and having intel with respect to this individual may have been driving a white vehicle or a white Elantra. Their next step was, and what you will find out probably tomorrow, is the FBI, with the assistance of local and state law enforcement, was on him 24/7 and waiting for an opportunity to then collect his DNA without his knowledge. The reason why they wanted to do that is they wanted to confirm and corroborate the DNA profile that was isolated at the murder scene was in fact DNA that belonged to this individual. And that will be played out tomorrow. You will learn very quickly.
Now, if he has studied murders and crimes as a criminal justice PhD candidate, then he might know a few things about this. We had a report earlier that he had studied, or at least studied under somebody who studied the bind, torture, kill serial killer. And you're, as a defense attorney, I kind of wonder, is him asking if somebody else was arrested, all the other circumstantial things that we have learned, is he creating some reasonable doubt here? And if you were defending him, would you have plenty to work with here?
Well, you know, keep in mind, again, as I started my comment, the physical evidence speaks for itself. The physical evidence that was left behind at the scene of the crime is ultimately going to be what's going to do in the individual responsible for these 4 homicides. And so whatever, you know, he thinks in a demented or narcissistic way may benefit him ultimately. And keep in mind, given the fact that Idaho has a death penalty phase, you know, the last thing you want to do is alienate jurors to hate you or dislike you. And I think this attack or this thing that he may be trying to play out as a strategy, I think ultimately will work against him and garner a plea. Again, the physical evidence is going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to get away with, given the brutality of what was left behind, given the brutality of the crimes that were committed, and given the abundance of DNA that was left behind. It's going to be hard for him to play any sort of card with respect to his, or what he believes he's smarter than everybody else.
Do you make anything of the fact that he is willing to waive his extradition and get back to Idaho to face charges sooner rather than later?
Well, the waiving of extradition, basically, if you contest extradition, all you're trying to suggest is I am not the person that is named in the arrest warrant in Idaho. And so that would just delay the inevitable. We obviously are confident and know that he is the individual wanted in Idaho. So that would just be an irritation and a wasted time. So generally speaking, unless there is a good faith basis to believe that the individual who's sitting in jail in Pennsylvania is not the same person in Idaho, then you would contest that. but we know that is not the fact, and so waiving it is a better idea and ultimately a better procedure with respect to his defense.
So my last question to you then, extradition is going to be waived. He's going to be taken back to Idaho. He'll face official charges. We will learn more from the documents that are filed once he's back in Idaho. But what happens after extradition and once he's back in Idaho?
Well, first of all, most importantly, the probable cause affidavit will be unsealed. That will give not only him, his defense attorney, and the general public an overview of the evidence that was collected, the investigation that ensued since November 13th, leading up to and through the arrest process. That's going to set the stage. It's going to set the stage for the defendant and for his defense team.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation in your cable lineup. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-based, unbiased coverage.